traffic jams, somebody would pull over and of course do something stupid, and it was just a mess. So they took control of that issue, and they provide natural gas powered vehicles that actually is a shuttle system now through the park. They control visitors to an extent, but you can hop off. They have a very effective shuttle system where you hop on, hop off wherever you want. They have, they cannot take, they don't have any plastic bottles in the park anymore. You have to take a water bottle. They sell water bottles. That generates money. So they've sort of managed that system. And over time, the tourists, you know, in the U.S. would like to bring our cars. But they got used to it. And they provided such a quality experience in that shuttle service that they were able to sort of, you know, people accepted it, and it's now a very useful thing. During the low season, they let people drive their car, no problem. So they've kind of managed it so they can get more regular visitor management system on track there.
Yes.
There are techniques.
But, you know, as we see what's happening in the world is these protected areas are becoming like recreational parks.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, you know, the way we're going now, probably...
We're going to lose it.
If you want to see nature, you have to, it's like going to the movies or something, you know, it's like going to a theme park, you know, where we're going to go see nature, and then everything's controlled, and, you know, to protect it, and there's no more natural kind of, I stumbled upon this new place, and took care of it, and took desires to know nature and left with no impact.
Because ultimately in the world, I think these natural places is very critical. Core areas are really so down the line. And if you don't have good rules in place and good management practices in place, the world is going to be a very different place. I think it's going to hurt the health of human beings as well as the health of nature. So, you know, finding alternatives and not letting it disappear somewhere the world is probably a good thing right now.
In our place, we're working on managing experiences in the past years, when you go to a place, it's crowded, and then you change place, to another island, it's still crowded. And we're working on with same others, so we have this before, and discussing it. We have this current reality dialogue to assess what's happening, where we want to do for the future, and where we want to proceed. So it's quite hard, but we really have to work on that. Not just on one side, but on the system.
I think they've done that. It's not easy. It's not easy. And like the Great Barrier Reef is a good example of that multi-stakeholder approach. And fishermen are happy, and you know, they're all stewards of that reef system and zoning, for example.
We are also letting the, you know, it has to be in the law that we have to set aside these snorkeling areas because it's already degraded, because it's degraded, so we have to close it for 50%.
Sure.
Pay for other places to get the ecosystem recover from the damage. So maybe in the future, we will, you know, the Great War or something, change the destinations will be connected. Not just on the great
So we have an hour left, and what we had planned to share with you was some examples of just techniques on facilities, sustainable techniques, and then we were going to do the dry landfalls. So anyway, we have three areas. Sarah has been very involved with the technical aspects of what you can do to facilities to minimize waste and do that. Or we're going to go into business plan development, if you're interested, or interpretation and guidance. So the business plan, okay, so why don't we do that? We'll start with business plan development, and we'll share on that topic. And then, are you interested in the green facilities, or are you kind
I
of?
would love to ask a question about to this experience with those ecologies, because you said a lot of them are family-owned, family-operated, so I'm wondering if they were newly built, because a lot of issues we find sometimes the tourism ecology experts will say, oh, it must have this kind of roofing, this kind of flooring, it must have all these things. But the structure was there already. So, you know, the children have grown up and left home, and now you have these 2 bedrooms and this 6, and you're going to have guests. So how could you change your
Well, I was going to cover that part too.
That's
On the existing laws so far, but when you are doing the new laws, they would expect to have already disturbed area would be ideal place to build otherwise.
So we can go into that maybe a little bit. Let's talk about business planning and business plan development, and then we'll go into maybe a little bit more facilities. And then we were thinking it might be good to just kind of bring our heads back around strategies to get the stakeholder involvement and what kind of things we would do to get that particular, because you guys had your ideal out there. And so how do we get people to that place? So, go.
Okay.
Just a final remark, it was a great pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us for a bit.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And we will post this information up on the.
This short question, what you did, one figure is restaurant, your like area, or your like tourism center, is it in Flores, or right there?
Armenia is a landlocked country. We have mostly the ocean. It's the mountains,
review.
forests, rivers, canals, volcans, different type of landscapes. Just a minor part of our remark, but the plan was just to be focused on. I was thinking about the involvement, the policy involvement of the communities. We may put a billion of boxes to the area, but if we have the surrounding of the national park, we'll have a high level of power, and then you just lose
Right? Yeah, we agree.
money,
Yeah.
efforts, everything. One season of illegal poaching, one season of illegal logging, just one act of against the well-conserved, well-protected area, you may lose more efforts for 100 years. So this is the coming to the business. Any ideal plan is not a guarantee.
Yeah.
So just
No, people have to see value in the protection of these.
Maybe that's poverty is the enemy of people.
Yeah,
Number
a lot of
one.
things.
not even climate change.
Sometimes it's a very
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, see you later. Okay.
No, we're only doing 15 minutes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, about,
Well, that's-
well, or 20.
Yeah. I had considered doing a presentation on some on the business plan and how to create it and do all that, but we don't even have a year time to do that, so I'm going to do an
Need a
overview.
day.
Yeah, I'm just going to do an overview. I could use the board, which might be,
Well, let's use that.
yeah, might be more efficient for us. And then you can ask questions as I go. We have to make this fairly quickly, so. You know Nina Gabor? Well, she was the ex-minister of tourism, and she's now she's in Subic Bay, the International School of Sustainable Tourism.
They have another part of the city.
Yeah. is their take.
So that'll give you a flag when you're about 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, we're just, give me a mic, you can call me on my cell phone.
I'll call you.
So, we're going to talk about a business plan, the whole business idea, and it may not pertain exactly to what you're doing, but the idea is there in terms of how to delegate effort and energy into doing it. The most important thing about building anything is you have to have a good foundation. And a good foundation means you have to be prepared. You have to have a soil, I'm talking metaphorically now. You have to have a soil sample. You have to know that you're building in an area that's permittable. You have to know that you like where you are. You know, you hear about people buying homes in places and then 6 months or a year later they move because they didn't realize that there was no whatever in this little town, or that they didn't like commuting, or they didn't like the people. You have to be familiar with what you're doing. So if you're going to build a business plan, now we're back to a literal consideration, you have to have, first and foremost, you have to have a macro or holistic concept, which means mission, vision, feasibility, and niche. Okay, why are these things important? The mission is, what do I want? Where do I want to go? What do I want to build? How do I want it to function? Do I want it as a business? Do I want it as a hobby? Do I want to make something left for my ancestors to live on? Is it a personal project? Is it a government project? What is it? That's your mission. What my goal is, what we aim to do. Your vision is how you see yourself in this, let's call it the dream that you create. How do I see myself? What is my job? I'm going to create lots of employment. I'm going to give access to something. I'm going to make people happy. What is it exactly that's driving? In the case of when we built our hotel, we didn't do any of this. And we were very fortunate that we survived because we were blind leading the blind. And only when I started my second hotel, having learned from all these mistakes and then learning new mistakes as I started, did I understand how important all these things are. That's how you begin with this whole idea. Feasibility. Is it actually something that I can do and maintain it? The word sustainability comes into effect again here. Financial sustainability. If I do this, it's a great idea. I think I can make money from it because I love that, and I've paid to do this, and I think other people will. Or in the case of a more generalized, like maybe national park or something, is this something that will draw people? Is this something that will get the support of my government? And is it something that can actually have a long-term relationship? Because this leads you to the single most important element of any business that's, and when I say business, it's something that's for profit. Okay? Because if you have a trust fund, then you don't have to worry about any of this. The single most important thing in feasibility in a business plan is cash. The single biggest error that people make when they build projects or start new projects or develop them and then open them for operations is they don't have a cash flow. They don't have a reserve. The major companies that take over other companies, Mitt Romney and Bain Capital in the United States or others, is they find really good, strong, feasible projects with no cash flow. And these projects start up, they've got interest, they've got, in the case, let's say you're a hotel, they've got reservations, they've got location, they've got marketing, but they don't have cash. And so, first thing that goes wrong, the first need to repay something, a mortgage payment from a bank, you're looking around madly, how can I do this? that's when the vultures come in and go, I'll give you the money you need right now and continue to give you the money, but I want to get shares in your company at 10 cents on the dollar. And they start buying shares, or they just take over with guarantees and you lose everything. So it doesn't matter what you're building, what kind of operation you're doing, you have to have cash flow. That might mean a reserve when you start, or it might mean something. Okay, the niche is, who is my client? Is that going to change over time? Is a calamity going to hurt me, an earthquake, illness, something else? These kinds of things are really incredibly important, especially for sustainable tourism, because your niche is going to be that kind of client that's looking for something that's nature-based or that's responsible, or one of those things. If you're not competing on a level that's different than your other, let's say, competitors, then you don't have anything to offer. And this kind of competitiveness is, competition is essential. Creating your niche is really important. That, we call that in the world of tourism differentiation. What is the differentiation factor? It might be that you have a better website and you're appealing more to people. It might be that the park that you're advertising, in your case, actually offers something that no other park offers. A trip down to a certain waterfall where you can, bathe in hot water, hot spring water. Whatever it is, what is your niche? Your niche is, in your case, in that case, people who are looking for hot springs or for wellness. So once you have these things, then you can go ahead with the next step, which is financing. And these financing is dependent on these things. And I'm going to talk to you about, just for a second, about, because we don't have a whole lot of time, that's why I said this will take really correct, this will take a day to do this. Where are you going to get this? Other people's money. Now, if you're doing a construction project, you're building a new facility, or you want to create new paths and walkways in the park system, whatever it is, you've got to get money somewhere to do that. Now, if you're sponsored by the government, then you have to appeal to the politicians and say, we need this. But if you're talking about raising funds through funding organizations, through public or private funding organizations, like the Principe Klaus in Holland, which is a big supporter of some sustainable projects, or a bank, they're all going to ask the same questions, which is, do you have a mission? Do you have a vision? Is it feasible? And who is your client? And then they're going to want to know, are you going to be able to create cash flow in order to pay it back? Or in the case of a grant, are you going to create enough cash flow to move forward with what you're doing in the future, be sustainable financially? So when you have other people's money, you're talking about banks loaning you money or investors buying into your project. And if you have investors buying into your project, in most cases, there are people that want to take some risk to high risk. If you're talking about small risk, you're talking about people that will invest at a pretty good pace for you, give you the money, they'll expect a certain return on their money, and they're happy. If you're talking about a higher risk, and sustainable tourism projects are generally higher risk because they don't fit into the conventional mold that they've set up in their minds as being the right way to do business, then you're talking about a much more difficult. So you have higher interest rates, more shares.
Depends on the development.
Yeah, but conventionally, they're looking for, they don't care whether you're sustainable or not if it doesn't affect your bottom line. So if you say, well, we're sustainable, or really sustainable, they're either going to go, so how are you going to generate money? Well, sustainability is good business because it attracts these people, and that's who our client is. Oh, okay, so that's your niche. You're doing sustainable tourism. But there's no bank in the world that's going to loan you money because you've got a big heart. that they don't think that way, they don't look that way. You can go to creditors, and I'll give you an example how profound this is. Costa Rica, right, one of the leaders in this, it's an established kind of tourism in our country. Sustainable tourism is policy in our country. It's governmental policy. 80% of our marketing money goes into sustainable tourism. You go to a bank and you say, I have a hotel that's been open for 3 years. It has 80% occupancy. Its TripAdvisors are all great. It's won all these awards in the responsible tourism category, and we generate this much income per month. They'll send that to the credit department, which are guys behind closed doors and cubicles, who all they look at are spreadsheets. And they're calculating at this much cash flow, at this much stuff, and they can afford from our bank, without any risk to us, this much loan. You go, well, that's only 1/2 of what I need. Put in the other half yourself, or otherwise we can't do that. And we've seen